few months into quarantine, I decided to finally reach one of my lifelong goals: to watch every single Disney Channel original movie. As someone who literally wrote her college undergraduate thesis about the cultural significance of the Disney Channel original musical, I've been on the pursuit for a higher purpose for my Disney Channel scholarly knowledge. So I thought that it was time to put my degree to work and answer the question on everyone's minds. Are old Disney Channel original movies actually better than new Disney Channel original movies? In 2015, James Corden took over as the host of the CBS late night show, The Late Late Show. This marked a significant shift in the framework of late night television. Not because they hired like a woman or a non-white man or anything. I mean, let's not get crazy here.
Believe me, however shocked you are that I am doing this job, you will never be as shocked as I am.
But because late night shows were pivoting from being about deep dive interviews with celebrities to viral moments, games, and digestible clips that could stand alone on the internet apart from the hour-long midnight TV block.
Can I put the radio on?
Yeah, please.
Yeah?
See, now, that's not an accident.
What do you mean?
I know your act. I know your act.
Carpool karaoke, for better or worse, revolutionized the concept of the talk show interview. The stringent question and answer format became more accessible for viewers by taking A-list celebrities and putting them not in the hot seat, but in a seat we've all been in before, the passenger seat, surrounded by blasting music and challenged to sing for their lives. This matched the newfound accessibility of celebrities through social media. Mystery and allure were no longer what audience wanted. People wanted relatable and real stars who are just like us. Ones who can make fools of themselves and can rap Nicki Minaj's Monsterverse. Which is actually not that special because any self-respecting Barb can do that with their eyes closed. I mean, just try me, Adele. Also in 2015 came the first film in a trilogy that would revitalize Disney Channel's original movie property with a wicked vengeance.
Disney's Descendants, the Disney Channel movie event of the year.
Following the release of Lemonade Mouth in 2011, Disney Channel original movies had exited their golden age and been on a rapid decline, not only in quality, but in actual production output. From 1999 to 2012, an average of 4 to 6 DCOMs were released per year. But in 2013, only one DCOM was released. The last time that happened was 1997 with Under Wraps, which is literally, but also debatably, the first DCOM, depending on where you stand in the Great Northern Lights debate. Disney Channel was also slowly losing relevance as influencers like YouTubers and Viners occupied the teen idol space that Disney stars once dominated. You couldn't manufacture a social media star the same way Disney manufactured a teen idol. I mean, at least in 2012. Things are a bit different in 2020.
Welcome to the Hype House. I'm Thomas. Let's get a tour.
So how much are these cats?
Over 10,000.
One phone call and I can have a 15-foot snake here.
How long do you need a snake?
Call the snake guy.
We're not doing
that.
It took a few years for Disney to catch on, but once they did, they shamelessly milked the social media cow for all it was worth. And we ended up with like this.
Okay, you guys. Let's do this.
What's my name? What's my name? Say it louder. What's my name? What's my name? Feel the power.
When I found out about these videos, I thought they were just some stupid promotional tactic. But the most popular of the Carscendance karaoke videos has literally 94 million views. The least viewed one has an impressive 5 million. And so something about this tactic was working, and it certainly worked for me because now I'm about to go on a rant about it for 30 minutes. But in the wise words of Hilary Duff,
Let's go back to the beginning.
So we're here to answer the simple question. Are old DCOMs actually better than new DCOMs? Is it just nostalgia at work, or did the quality of the film shift over time? And if so, what caused this shift? This is not a simple yes or no question. As with almost anything in life, context matters. And so let's get a little bit of context on why these movies we all know and love, and sometimes hate,
Not only are you gonna break my spirit, but you're gonna mock me as well?
exist in the first place. A brief history of Disney Channel.
Stand by all cameras. Ready with slow motion and isolated cameras. Stand by videotape and rotate.
The 1970s were a huge time for television. Monday Night Football and many popular daytime game shows like The Price is Right premiered for the first time in the 70s. Soap operas were booming as well as medical shows, but the biggest shift in major popularity was of sitcoms. The Brady Bunch, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched, and All in the Family all became mainstays, setting the framework for the sitcom format we all know today. The 70s also saw the growing popularity of the telefilm, or the TV movie as it's better known, as well as the miniseries. This showed that TV had a potential to capture audiences' attention for more than 30 minutes at a time, and that viewers actually wanted long-form and engaging media to watch at home. So, enter Disney. Previously, the company had been focused mostly on the film market, but they could no longer ignore the TV takeover. I imagine it went something like this. Some dude at Disney pitches the idea for a channel around this time and basically gets shut down. Disney is like, no, don't make a channel, you're too sexy, as they're busy building Spaceship Earth, aka the Epcot Ball, and making plans to bring Walt Disney's creepy utopian theme park vision to life. Basically, they insisted that they were working too hard on the Florida project to allocate time and money to TV. But sure, put it on the docket and maybe they'd revisit it.
I didn't ask you, I'm talking to you. You want to come in here and charge me $1 billion? That's nothing to me.
The Disney Channel. Everything you've ever imagined and more.
So when they finally launched Disney Channel in 1983, a year after the opening of Epcot, it opened as a premium channel on top of basic cable. They mostly showed Mickey Mouse shorts and premiered this movie called Tiger Town, which was about an aging baseball player on the Detroit Tigers. They also broadcast Disney classic movies, the first one being Alice in Wonderland, because we all know how big Alice in Wonderland remakes were in the 70s. And I wonder why. The audience for Disney Channel at the time was the family unit. Most Americans only had one TV in their house, so shows had to cater to every family member at once. Nickelodeon, the first kid-specific TV channel, didn't launch until 1979, so having shows just for children was far from the norm in the early 80s. In the 1990s, Disney Channel became part of the expanded basic cable package, which meant if you paid a little more on your cable bill, you could get a few additional channels. In 1996, the Disney Channel premiered a documentary called Anne Frank Remembered, which won the Academy Award for Best Documentary that year.
I must thank Michael Atwill at the BBC, Doug Zwick, Nancy Kemp, and Bruce Ryder at Disney.
I'm pretty sure that's the only Disney Channel premiere film or DCOM to even be considered for an Oscar, let alone win one. But just a year later, Disney Channel decided to make a huge pivot and completely rebrand. They had 3 programming blocks. Playhouse Disney, which is now Disney Junior for little kiddos and babies to enjoy. Vault Disney, which no longer exists, the Sunday night block of vintage programming. And Zoog Disney, which was for hip tweens and trendy teens who like surfing the net and chatting on IM with their totally tight homies on school nights. I mean, this was part of that whole trend in the late 90s and early 2000s where the letter Z made things seem modern and edgy.
The truth is, I think it's pretty macro you grew up in space.
I think it's macro you grew up here on Earth.
And because of Y2K, everyone was super into technology and hacker aesthetics, which has kind of come back around style-wise if you just scroll on TikTok for like 5 minutes and come across literally any e-girl.
Do you know nothing's wrong with me?
But anyway, Zoog Disney was the blueprint for the Disney Channel that we think of now. Star-making sitcoms and movies that teach you life lessons, have banger soundtracks, questionable outfits, and endless reasons to rewatch them over and over again. The nostalgia years, 1997 to 2002. As a disclaimer, this timeline only applies to Disney Channel original movies, because if I were to talk about the evolution of Disney Channel shows, I would have to make an entirely separate video just to tackle a fraction of that. So let's talk about nostalgia. Media has been in a cycle of nostalgia for as long as there have been, well, media. People tend to be biased towards things they watched, read, or listened to as teens because life as a whole seemed simpler back then. That's why 50s aesthetics were so popular in the 70s, 90s aesthetics in the 2000s, and 2000s aesthetics are back now. So when you mention the phrase Disney Channel original movie to people of a certain generation, they immediately start listing off what they consider the classics. From 1997 to 2002, Disney Channel made over 40 original movies, which is kind of an impressive run for a project that's just starting out, right? Except it wasn't just starting out. Before the 1997 rebrand, Disney Channel was releasing movies under the label Disney Channel Premiere Films. These were movies like Wish Upon a Star, starring Katherine Heigl, and like 3 Parent Trap sequels for some reason. So this early run of DCOMs was kind of an experimental period to figure out what kinds of movies would do well for an audience of just kids. Their ideas must have been really well researched because a lot of the concepts hit super well. Science Gone Wrong, which was a holdover from the 80s, sports movies, futuristic space agey stuff, which was again the entire vibe of Y2K, and the only slightly out of place genre, and by out of place I mean it pretty much vanishes entirely after the nostalgia years, is the dramatic real life lesson movie. And we'll talk a little bit about why this goes away later. But one specific property from this time that fascinates me is Halloween Town. Like any self-respecting Disney Channel stan, I of course love Halloween Town with every fiber of my being. But upon rewatching it recently in the midst of watching more than a dozen literally bad DCOMs, I was struck by 2 things. 1, how good of a movie it actually was, and 2, how early in the DCOM run a movie this great was made. Halloween Town came out in 1998, just a year after the launch of Disney Channel. Its success was kind of a lightning striking at the right time kind of thing. TV movies were big at the time, and having a name like Debbie Reynolds attached was a huge draw. Plus, witches and fantasy will always slap. Director Dwayne Dunham said, "The Disney Channel was just starting to make these kinds of family movies. It was very well written. It was just big, because it was written as a feature. We spent some time trying to keep the integrity of the story but get it down where we could afford to make the movie. So, perhaps the movie's quality can be attributed to the fact that it was written as a full-length feature to watch in theaters, not a TV movie. Because Disney Channel wasn't as established as it is now, scripts weren't being written specifically for TV. Like Halloween Town, they were often being adapted from scripts meant for the big screen. As DCOMs became more established with their own tropes and trappings, the writing begins to follow a similar pattern. Just think about Hallmark movies. Someone had to make the first white couple wears green and red and finds the meaning of Christmas in a small town movie, but now that's like every single movie on the Hallmark Channel.
Rudolph, will you bring my sleigh around?
Additionally, and more importantly, Dwayne Dunham said this about Halloween Town's intended audience. When you're making these kinds of movies, it's important to never talk down to your audience. Just because a person, a viewer, might be considered a child or, young, it doesn't mean that they're not sophisticated. That was Walt Disney's big thing. Never talk down to kids. They'll get it. A Star is Almost Born, 2003 to 2005.
Don't worry about all the intricacies of this one. Just worry more about whoop, and then the middle line, and just worry more about the ears.
Okay.
Okay. And
oh, it's mouse ears.
Yeah, it's mouse
ears.
Oh. There you go.
When Lizzie McGuire premiered on Disney Channel in 2001, it felt like they had finally struck gold. Hilary Duff was the perfect girl next door that everyone wanted to be or be friends with. Yahara Zaid has an incredibly detailed video about Hilary Duff's rise to squeaky clean stardom, so I recommend you go watch that after, since I won't go into detail here. But here's what you need to know. Hilary Duff was the first true Disney Channel star, and is the reason Disney Channel became aware of their incredible star-making ability, and they harnessed that power really, really hard.
I'm Hilary Duff from Lizzie McGuire and Cadet Kelly, and you're watching Disney Channel.
Okay. Hey, I'm Hilary Duff from Lizzie McGuire and Cadet Kelly, and you're watching Disney Channel.
The 2002 film Cadet Kelly was Disney's test run for a star-driven vehicle. Up to this point, DCOMs were being promoted by Concept, a town where Halloween creatures live all year round. A true story about twins whose dream is to play in the WNBA. Quints! The DCOMs of the nostalgia years had a few repeat stars, like Ryan Marry Me Merriman, or Kimberly just don't understand why they didn't cast her in Return to Halloween Town Jay Brown.
You used to call me on my cell phone.
But their level of celebrity was nothing compared to what was to come in the next era. Unlike DCOMs of the past, promotions for Cadet Kelly weren't so much about the movie's plot, but more about the movie's stars.
Hey there, this is Ren. How you doing, Ren?
Christy Carlson Romano, better known as Ren Stevens from Even Stevens, and Hilary Duff. In the film, Christy and Hilary play students at a military school. Christy is a stuck-up stickler, and Hilary is a tough-to-tame free spirit. They were marketing it like some Ryan Murphy feud type saga, while also promoting like this unbreakable girl power bond. In retrospect, it was pretty forced, much like all the content on CCR's YouTube channel.
Today what we're gonna watch is Cadet Kelly. There we are. Oh, goodness me. I'm so serious in this picture.
But if you rewatch the movie, you'll notice two things. One, the beginning of the movie is kind of boring.
Stock footage. It's not a DCOM unless it has stock footage in front of it, people. Come on now.
The iconic drill team ribbon dance plot doesn't even come into effect until 45 minutes into a movie, where Hilary Duff just does obstacle courses and sighs a lot. 2. Christy Carlson Romano isn't even in the movie that much. The film wasn't so much of a two-hander as it was a movie starring Hilary Duff featuring CCR as the antagonist who is kind of in the right.
I'm totally for Stone. I think Stone gets it.
Which establishes a long pattern of mean girls in teen media being portrayed as the villain when they were actually just advocating for what they deserve. No! But anyway, the point? Cadet Kelly was successful enough for Disney Channel to turn the star-driven DCOM concept into most of their business plan. You Wish starred AJ Trouth and Lalaine. Eddie's $1 Million Cook-Off had Orlando Brown. Pixel Perfect starred Ricky Ullman. Now You See It had Ali Mashaka. Life is Rough had Kyle Massey. If a Disney star wasn't the center of a film, they added a Disney star as a best friend or side character to capture the viewer's attention. However, during this time, Disney exercising its star-making power went far beyond just casting Disney Channel stars in its original movies. Disney Channel began vertically integrating its stars into other facets of the business, literally creating a We Are the World-esque supergroup called the Disney Channel Circle of Stars to sing classic Disney songs and make music videos just to sell DVDs of movies that had been out for many, many years. The biggest example of this was the Cheetah Girls. So here's some things you need to know. During this era of the Disney Channel, the CEO and president of the company was a man named Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner, better known as Diz Twitter's favorite corporate punching bag, has kind of a tumultuous history with the company. Let's just say he had some imagination, huh?
Hello, I'm Michael Eisner. I'm here in the virtual reality studio where Disney Imagineers are creating a whole new world of storytelling.
He kind of dreamt big, maybe even too big for Disney standards, which led to a lot of projects with potential that also wasted a lot of money.
Oh well, welcome to the wonderful world of Disney.
Anyway, Michael Eisner did a couple of good things during his heyday, one of them being the founding of Hollywood Records. They struggled at first. Like, they literally failed to sign Nirvana in the 90s, but they eventually acquired the publishing rights to Queen's entire discography.
So we're thrilled to be with you and look forward to a great and sparkling future under the Disneyland, or should I say Hollywood, sign.
Oh, all that crap again?
For a while, the label had trouble getting off the ground with new artists, until a certain Disney starlet released her debut album in 2003.
Don't be so yesterday. Get it today.
Metamorphosis gave Hollywood Records purpose, direction, and meaning, the same way it gave me purpose, direction, and meaning when I was in the 2nd grade. Metamorphosis was so successful that Disney realized they could focus their label on the stars they had already invested their time and money in through the channel. And so they did. The Cheetah Girls is based on a series of YA novels by Deborah Gregory. The movie was set to star Raven-Symoné, a child star who is shaping up to be Disney Channel's next big icon via That's So Raven.
Yep, that's me.
They tapped Adrienne Bailon and Keely Williams from 3LW, as well as Sabrina Bryan, to round out the group, and made a movie that seamlessly featured a soundtrack of songs to be released on Walt Disney Records, which was their family-friendly film soundtrack-focused label. And as we know, the Cheetah Girls became so successful that they made 2 more movies, one without Raven, and spun off into a standalone girl group with an album released on Hollywood Records. Raven-Symoné also went on to release 2 solo albums under Hollywood, establishing their focus on the offshoot careers of Disney Channel stars. Disney would then make even more money off of merchandise and TCG going on tour, as well as random properties like video games and musical toothbrushes. And just to further emphasize the power of vertical integration, the original Cheetah Girls books were published by an imprint of Hyperion Books, a publishing company owned by Disney. So Disney absolutely knew what they were doing when it came to marketing their stars on all fronts. I mean, these teens became a one-stop shop for them, singing, dancing, and acting, all while cementing Disney Channel's reputation for churning out stars like it's some kind of automated machine. Which it is. Like, that's capitalism for ya.
Number 1, record a bump and demo. Number 2, have the record people fall in love with it. And 3, make millions.
With the success of the Cheetah Girls, Disney Channel realized how important it was to have one foot in the music industry at all times. That first Cheetah Girls soundtrack went double platinum, and the second went platinum. Quite simply, the Cheetah Girls was the blueprint. Musical movies were an easy way to promote new stars, gain viewers through eventized television, and earn revenue and radio play from charts and album sales.
Are you even listening?
I am listening very carefully. And do you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing someone glomming onto my talent and my credit. Our music, Mel? I basically write all of it.
I always wish that life could be a musical. One person just says 5, 6, 7, 8.
Mentally, I am here. The Golden Age, 2006 to 2011. During this time, Disney Channel released 29 movies, 11 of which were either musicals or had music attached to them. So Disney was fully taking advantage of their dominance of tween CD players, iPods, and Zunes, while trying to capitalize on the massive success of what many consider their flagship property.
We're breaking free.
Before I begin professing my undying love for this franchise and everything it has given us, let's just look at the facts. HSM premiered on Disney Channel on January 20th, 2006. 7.7 million people watched the premiere broadcast. The soundtrack reached #1 on the Billboard 200 chart and is now certified quadruple platinum.
My goal is to have everyone singing these songs in their head, because they're already stuck in my head, and I haven't been able to get them out.
And the movie was so successful that it spawned 2 sequels, a spin-off movie, a super meta television show, adaptations in Argentina, Brazil, and China, a concert tour, a stage show, an ice skating spectacular, a book series, video games, and a reality show where the winner got to be like deep in the credits of HSM3, which is the weirdest flex of all time. This is when Disney Channel was honestly at its peak. And I don't mean that in a nostalgic fan way, but I mean that from a business perspective. They were putting out an average of 4 movies a year, all of which were relative successes, with many of them creating long-standing franchises.
Oh, this one was good.
How long did you guys date?
Like a month.
Both their television and movie stars were the talk of the town in the tween world, with Miley Cyrus, Zac Efron, and the like regularly gracing the covers of magazines, garnering paparazzi attention, and getting cast in bigger and better projects.
When the girl walks in with an itty bitty waist and a round thing in your face, you get sprung.
Stories from this era are eerily similar to that of the golden age of Hollywood. Young people at the peak of stardom, their freedoms aggressively stifled by the company that created them.
Oh, I'd give anything to get out of ours altogether.
Disney had successfully created a rotation of stars and productions to sustain them through this golden age. An era that was defined by unmatched celebrity status, chart dominance, sold-out concert tours, and a model that virtually every youth-focused media company tried to emulate or mock.
A Nickelodeon original movie, Spectacular.
The HSM franchise became so big that they released the 3rd movie in theaters. It grossed over $90 million in its opening weekend, setting a record for the largest opening weekend for a musical film. The Jonas Brothers got scooped up by Disney and were first introduced as a musical act only, then got trickled into acting through a record-breaking guest spot on Hannah Montana.
We're such big fans.
We love your music.
You're pretty.
This episode aired the night of the HSM2 premiere, and eventually landed the Jonas Brothers their own, noticeably less good show.
Season 2 of Jonas was a big regret. We shouldn't have done that.
They were reverse engineered as Disney stars through Camp Rock, which helped launch the career of Demi Lovato, who would later star in Sunny with a Chance, which also starred Sterling Knight, who ended up starring in Starstruck, which is a movie so bad that it basically broke the DCOM2 soundtrack pipeline, because at this point, the pop star meets fan musical movie trope had become such a Disney Channel cliche.
All of those like Disney Channel original movies like Brink and Motocrossed, like that was the jam back in the day. Like that was the coolest thing in the world. Like, we don't get to do that anymore, which I think these kids nowadays are missing out.
You're doing it again.
Doing what?
That thing with your eyes.
Oh, you mean this?
Okay, so comedy, not your next big career move.
What? No, I'm funny.
Funny looking.
You see, while this was the golden age, that also meant Disney was getting into a groove of greed.
I want more.
They were producing these movies with such vigor that they started to follow a similar pattern. A kid with a problem doesn't fit in, so they need to do something to fit in, like singing, or dancing, or acting, or whatever. But they found out the strength was in them all along, and so that is a movie. Almost every DCOM during this time follows that similar find yourself, be yourself pattern, which is kind of an easy sell, because kids will always feel a little out of place during their tween years, no matter the generation. But because of this cut and paste morality, the deeper messages found in earlier DCOMs, which dive into topics like race, gender, and disability, were basically wiped clean. Disney no longer wanted to rock the boat out of fear of offending their audiences or losing profit. They saw that being safe raked in the big bucks, and for that, they were never sorry.
I would rather have friends than fans any day.
Yeah, right.
But if we're getting technical though, the DCOM Golden Age ended on April 25th, 2011 with the premiere of Lemonade Mouth.
Poets, geniuses, visionaries. Lemonade Mouth has been called all of these things. It's hard to believe that the story of how their band came to be began here.
Lemonade Mouth seemed like it was going to be a positive shift for the DCOM format. It had a musical built into the story, it starred Bridget Mendler, who was slowly becoming Disney's main pop girl after the departure of Miley Cyrus, and in retrospect, this movie kind of got a lot of things right. It gave us Hayley Kiyoko and Naomi Scott, and we don't talk about what happened to Wen and the drummer who just makes really cringe TikToks about his career now.
I still got it.
It was a movie about fitting in and finding your crew, but without compromising your real self to fit in. Yes, this was the message of most DCOMs by then, but they did this without watering down the character's struggles. Mo is the daughter of Indian immigrants and gave us the eldest daughter of immigrants anthem we all deserve. Wen was working through his father's remarriage to a much younger woman. Charlie struggled to get out of his Stanford-bound brother's shadow. Olivia's father, spoiler alert,
My dad's in prison.
and Stella, well, we all know how that ends. When I first watched this movie in 2011, I was surprised by how real it was. None of the songs were random. They were always singing in a performance or music video, which made it feel more realistic. And the things these kids were struggling with were more real than, should I go to Juilliard for free even though I've only ever been in 1.5 musicals and never had formal vocal or acting training, or go to a D1 basketball school, which is inexplicably my backup, which is also ranked as the #1 public university in the world. I mean, I don't know, Troy, maybe you should check your privilege.
University of California, Berkeley, offers me both. That's where I'm going to be attending.
I hoped Lemonade Mouth marked a trend of DCOMs embracing their sentimental roots, digging their heels a little more into the after-school special of it all. Now that Lemonade Mouth was a musical with Disney stars, that opened the door for mature and honest discourse. But instead, we got this.
This girl is ruining my life, my job, my reputation. And if we ever get home, I'm gonna need a vacation. But no matter what, I won't be a quitter. Gonna care for these kids because I'm the babysitter.
Disney's Identity Crisis, 2012 to 2016. Okay, here's the thing. There are genuinely a handful of great movies that were made during this era. Radio Rebel is good, and y'all are just mean to Debbie Ryan because she can be a little cringe sometimes.
I'm afraid to show people the real me.
But I'm all about this Sleepless in Seattle meets Lemonade Mouth, underground Audio Rebellion vibe that they have going. Hot take, but Invisible Sister should be considered a new age DCOM Halloween classic. Rowan's dramatic acting is actually a perfect foil for the comedic acting here. The New Orleans setting is really fun and fitting, the ending haunted house sequence is perfectly set dressed, and the heart of this movie is totally in the right place. And Teen Beach Movie is just a film ahead of its time, making very important commentary about how we consume media and identify with it. A crash course on gender roles in different time periods, an experiment in postmodern musical filmmaking, and a poignant satire on the teen surf movies of the 1960s. And also, Mac and Layla are girlfriends. But that being said, a majority of these movies made during the time were a mess.
It was fine when I went to bed.
From a business standpoint, Disney had stopped making as many DCOMs as they used to, cutting their yearly average in half, and in 2013, only releasing one movie. They did a lot more one-off movies because their flagship franchises had come to an end. Teen Beach Movie tried to be the next HSM, but the ending of Teen Beach 2 is actually a crime against humanity. And I will not be taking any questions at this time unless you want to listen to my podcast where I actually get into this discussion for over an hour.
They were smart to make this, I thought. It made a lot of sense.
Well, and we ended up, we far exceeded their expectations for even our views.
It was obvious that Disney was trying to reboot itself as a star-making machine after losing so many of their key players to, well, growing up. They pushed the stars of their current shows to star in DCOMs. Debbie Ryan, Ross Lynch, Laura Marano, China Anne McClain, and even Zendaya. But nothing seemed to hit the same way HSM or its counterparts did.
Brady, what's wrong?
Whoa, what is it? I don't know.
Come on.
By 2014, Disney Channel's viewership was on a rapid decline. They lost about 60 million average viewers in 2 years. Additionally, in 2011, Nielsen reported that American TV watching was on the decline for the first time in 20 years, and that downturn has not stopped. Disney had a new competitor that they didn't see coming. Invading the online space, a place where Disney was afraid to truly dive into at this point, came the era of social media stars.
As an artist and as a content creator, just having the ability and the freedom to create whatever you want. If you have a vision, you have a message, you have a song, or you have something you want to share to the world, you have the capabilities right there and the tools to upload it. And the best part is that you have the direct communication with your audience.
In 2012, Instagram went from being an iOS-only app to being available on Android phones. This was also the year Instagram was acquired by Facebook, which helped their user number grow from 30 million to 80 million in just 4 months.
What if you had the power to control things right in the palm of your hand?
I have an app that controls boys!
A 2013 survey shows that 55% of teens had an iPhone, and 65% plan to make the iPhone their next phone purchase. 2013 also saw the release of Vine and all that followed. With things like VidCon and internet influencer culture taking off, young people no longer look to a company like Disney to manufacture stars and content for them. With that first wave of big Disney stars growing up, going wild, and exposing Disney for its overprotective and sanitizing nature, young people wanted stars who they felt a real connection with. Holding a phone in your hand and watching a video that someone took in their house, just like showing you their morning routine or doing a haul of what they got at the grocery store, connects with you on a different psychological level than like a highly produced movie about some girl's prom getting sabotaged because an ex-cop asks her to help hunt down a jewel thief, which is the actual plot of Bad Hair Day.
But I don't have anything to wear. Welcome to the coolest department store in the city. Central Police Station Evidence Room. Lucky for you, some criminals have great taste. Oh yeah, they do.
By 2016, most teens were spending their leisure time on YouTube instead of TV. Instagram soared up to 60 million users, and Disney's viewership continued to rapidly decline. They weren't making shows and movies that mirrored what the youth wanted to see. They were desperately trying to hold on to the formula that made them big at a time when self-made influencers did not exist the way they do today. In order to step up the game, Disney Channel shifted their business model to be more in line with the Disney Corporation at large. Say hello to existing intellectual property and fake authenticity.
I'm rotten to the core.
The time has come to talk about The Descendants, Return and Rebuild, 2017 to present. One of the fundamental problems that Disney Channel had post-HSM was that they no longer had a flagship property. The success of HSM is a big reason their business model was what it was. Musicals that make stars, that make soundtracks that sell, and so on. They tried to replicate it again with Teen Beach Movie, but frankly the concept was just not something that followed any sort of market trend at the time.
It's your typical 1960s beach movie.
It also wasn't directed by our Lord and Savior Kenny Ortega, who directed not only the High School Musical trilogy, but also the Best Cheetah Girls movie. Disney as a whole was moving into this uninspiring trend of just recreating their own movies again, but like worse. But Disney's long-standing brand has always been its strongest suit, which is why the Descendants movies were the perfect way to completely realign the Disney Channel. For those not in the know, Descendants is a trilogy of movies directed by Kenny Ortega and released on the Disney Channel between 2015 and 2019. It's about the kids of iconic Disney villains, who call themselves VKs, getting off their little prison island and getting the chance to go to the same school as the children of princes and princesses.
These are the descendants of Disney's most evil villains, and this generation is rotten to the core.
It pretty much followed the original DCOM musical formula. It starred Dove Cameron and Cameron Boyce, who were already known for their roles on Disney Channel shows. It was directed by the god, Kenny Ortega, and it was a musical.
Well, let's get this party started.
Except it totally did not need to be a musical. There is no point in the narrative of the Descendants trilogy where the characters express the need to sing and dance. It just kind of happens.
Suit of armor, strong and true. Make this metal bust a move.
The songs don't move the plot forward as much as they sound like really similar to songs you hear on the radio. The first Descendants soundtrack is full of these like horrible dubstep adjacent songs, while the Descendants 2 soundtrack was like robbed of a Grammy basically.
I really like Uma's song.
Uma's song is so good.
Yes. That's definitely my favorite.
Unlike High School Musical, Lemonade Mouth, Cheetah Girls, Let It Shine, and Teen Beach Movie, where music is an integral part of the plot, the Descendants trilogy is a musical just because you can make it a musical, and like, make a lot of money off of it. YouTube clips of the songs from Descendants have upwards of 100 million views.
I want what I deserve. I wanna rule the world. Sit back and watch them learn. It's finally my turn.
Like late night shows before them, Disney figured out that making a movie that can be repurposed into bite-sized viral clips was the best way to advertise their own movies. The songs don't need to make sense in the plot, as long as they go viral on YouTube, and kids will watch them over and over again, which means they all have the favorite descendant, and they all want to be Mal for Halloween, and they all need the lunchbox and the backpack, and you get the idea. Disney's distribution habits began to match that of viral trends.
Why don't you join me as I unbox this mystery box of goodies right now? Let's do this.
So we're in the hair trailer.
Well, you will fly it, Cameron. We've been best friends ever since, isn't that right, Hannah? It's really just my girl.
Oh, this is Mel.
So the Evie doll actually looks a lot like me. There are a lot of similarities between us.
My evil laugh? Oh, there's more of my eyes.
Did you see that? Sweeping them off their feet.
Carscendants is a literal ripoff of James Corden's Carpool Karaoke, where the Descendants cast just lip syncs their own songs in a fake car. And yeah, the Carscendants car is fake. The background is a green screen. Like, there's absolutely no reason they need to be in a car or have their hands on the wheel or even be wearing seatbelts. It's just a way to attach the Descendants to a property that people were already familiar with. They do this with a lot of different things, like they did a zombies prank video, or like Joshua Bassett's entire Instagram aesthetic just being 9 videos of him playing the guitar. Disney stars nowadays need to toe the line between relatable and celebrity. Equal parts Emma Chamberlain and Ariana Grande. But Descendants was like a smash. Even critics were happy to see Disney Channel back in their bag. Amy Amatangelo of The Hollywood Reporter called it High School Musical meets Once Upon a Time. It smartly ushers little girls who have grown up watching Disney movies into the tween audience, and is an idea so ripe for merchandising that the Disney store is already chock full of Descendants costumes, dolls, and t-shirts.
So this is my entire collection of Descendants stuff. I am getting more customs, but Descendants is over, so I'm not sure how much more Descendants stuff I will be adding to my collection, but hopefully they make a lot more stuff so I can add it to my collection.
Disney continues to milk this franchise for every last drop, making countless cartoon spin-offs and music for those cartoon spin-offs, and even releasing a music video where the villain of the third movie tries to retcon her entire plotline. But it's also a Christmas song, because apparently they celebrate Christmas in Auradon. I honestly think Disney Channel is getting back into a good place with its movies after the boost that was Descendants. They're trying this colored hair trilogy thing again with Zombies, which is also a musical for no reason except that they can make music that sounds like Aaron Carter meets Party in the USA era Miley Cyrus. It's like painfully obvious that Someday carries the entire franchise since they use it 3 different times across 2 movies. But I also think Disney Channel is taking some big swings on things that don't quite fit into their old formula. The Freaky Friday movie got a lot of backlash online because how could you possibly recreate the success of the Lindsay Lohan movie? I'm like the Crypt Keeper! But the DCOM was actually based more broadly on the 1972 novel of the same name that Disney keeps making movie versions of, dating back to 1976. The Freaky Friday DCOM is based on the stage musical of the same name that Disney produced to be licensed by professional, regional, and amateur productions all over the country. And I think that's kinda cool. I mean, it's so Hamilton, but it's cool that they created a musical that can be licensed for smaller non-Broadway productions and then made a movie featuring some of the show's original cast to help get people excited about wanting to do a stage production. I mean, obviously the long-term goal of this whole thing is a capitalist takeover of all forms of media, but everything is evil and nothing is good. But I like that this movie was an actual musical, where the plot is being moved forward by the songs, and the songs sounded like musical theater songs.
It's okay.
And not rip-offs of the Chainsmokers. The choreography and set design are really crisp and impressive, and the scavenger hunt plot was giving me everything To All the Boys 2 didn't. Plus, the music was written by the same team who did Next to Normal. I'd really like to see Disney Channel lean into more creative things like this, especially since so many people are getting into musical theater from watching Hamilton on Disney+. Disney+ is also the biggest factor here. I mean, the DCOM doesn't need to thrive off of ratings anymore. Disney can just chuck any movie they want onto their streaming service, and at least a few thousand people will check it out. So this platform shift will surely change the quality and content of the movies yet again. So it's too soon to tell how that will all turn out. So, which movies are better? That golden age of Disney Channel was the golden age for a reason. Movies like High School Musical, The Cheetah Girls, and Camp Rock were made better by the culture surrounding it. The aura of celebrity that hovered around the network's teen stars. The desire to consume all the content possible around these movies we loved. But there also just wasn't much else to do. Kids nowadays have their choice of devices and apps to keep themselves occupied, whereas my biggest dilemma growing up was choosing between Disney Channel or Nickelodeon for the night. I think new DCOM suffered from a lack of direction and just an overall decline in interest. And if people aren't interested in what you're doing, there's less and less motivation to make something good. And of course, there's exceptions to this rule across the board. I mean, Invisible Sister and Freaky Friday are movies that, to me, feel similar to classic DCOMs, but also inch the genre into new territory. On the flip side, Starstruck is like offensive to me. There are literal Wattpad fanfics that are better than the writing in that movie, so of course the old versus new debate isn't ever going to be black and white. But the biggest takeaway here is to think critically about the conditions under which art and content are made. The different pillars that make up a DCOM are inherently capitalist. The bottom line is usually to make as much money as possible in the most efficient way possible. I think when you're making art under the suffocating system that is capitalism, anything that ends up being actually good quality despite its money-making motivations is worth noting. And media that shifts the needle of trends in culture at large are always worth scrutinizing. And finally, we really should think of Disney Channel original movies as a canon. And I don't mean something we just look back at with nostalgia, make memes about every few months and go, oh my god, do you remember that? For its impact on art, media, and the entertainment industry at large, DCOMs are a canon. Movies that are heralded as part of the classic film canon are identified as such. Not just for being good movies, but for being movies that move the needle and say something about what the world was like at the time that those movies were made. It's clear that DCOMs have done the same for its corresponding generations, and that's certainly worth canonizing.
It's hard to believe that I couldn't see you were always there beside me.
It's a fun movie. I really, really love it. I think you should go check it out. It's on Disney Plus right now. It's one of several things that I'm on. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification button, and like.